This is how I bought my first Ferrari. Hey, what's up guys? So hope you're all well. I'm doing a video this week all about one of my passions, which is supercars. And I'm actually sat in my Tesla waiting to get in because I forgot my key and my wife is on the school run. And I thought, what better time to do a video about my first Ferrari and how I might be able to help anyone who is thinking about taking the plunge into buying a supercar, some of my key learnings and what I would absolutely do, and some of my big watch outs. But as ever, before we get into the video, I need you all to do me a huge favor, and that is to smash the like button and don't forget to hit subscribe. So when we talk about supercars, we mean things like Ferraris, Lamborghinis, McLarens, Bentleys, Rolls-Royce, the list just goes on and on. I didn't say Porsche because I am not a fan of Porsches. I think that they are like the poor man's Ferrari or Lamborghini. There's something about how they look, there's something about how they drive that I think just doesn't cut the mustard when it comes to Lambos, Ferraris, McLarens. But I'm sure that is a subject that we can debate. This video isn't about my taste for supercars, it's about how I can maybe help someone, giving you my advice on how to buy your first supercar. Now look, the finance world does open up the ability for most people to buy a supercar. But before you think about buying a supercar, you really need to think about getting your hair cut if it's looking anything like mine. Oh my God, am I desperate for a haircut. Anyway, back to the video about supercars. So look, it doesn't really matter what supercar takes your fancy. The key thing here is to time it right. Buy the car literally just as it's on the edge of the curve of its bottom, and it's either going to stay that price or it's going to go up in value. Now, my first Ferrari that I ever bought was a Ferrari F430, and I was looking for the classic red Ferrari at the lowest price at 65,000. But typically when I bought in 2015, the bottom of the market at 65,000, you were still buying one at the 2005 plate, and the mileage was anything from 25 to 45,000. And you were definitely buying the basic model, not convertible, not the racing seats, very basic interior, and it probably didn't have electric seats or Bluetooth. And I think when you're buying a supercar, you need to maximize what someone else has paid for, which is all of the added extras. So things like upgraded seats, upgraded steering wheel, interiors, interior finish, the gizmos and the gadgets, upgraded hi-fi system, Bluetooth for your phone, electric seats, all of these little things that don't really add a huge amount of value at that moment are great selling points when you come to sell the car, and they did cost someone once upon a time a huge amount of money. So I really wanted to get one of these red Ferraris, but I knew that at the bottom of the price range, I needed to make sure that when I came to sell it, I had a USP over everything else at that value of 65,000. And then I found a really nice dark gunmetal grey, and grey is one of my favourite colours, with a red roof. Now, I didn't really like the red roof, but it did start to grow on me. And I was able to negotiate a price for this Ferrari at around 75,000 with loads of little extras chucked in. And at the time, I wasn't massively cash rich, and that was my cash pot to do deals and buy properties and show banks and estate agents that I had the viability means to do deals. So I didn't really want to tap into all of that. And with regards to these supercars, you can get pretty much unregulated finance. It's a bit like the old mortgage wild west, where you can get like really high loan to value on these types of cars. So I think I put like 10 grand down and financed the rest of this car. And look, that car was a really classic Ferrari. It had a leaky roof, you couldn't hit the launch control, it was forever having issues with it, and I couldn't put my foot down or really put it to the test after like 15-20 minutes of letting it sit there warmed up. It's a really impractical car, but God, did I love it. And I used to love taking people out in it. And it wasn't the most expensive Ferrari. It definitely wasn't the nicest Ferrari. But for me, it was everything that I ever wanted and more. And by far the best supercar I think I've ever had. And the beauty of this car is that when I came to sell it like 18 months, 2 years later, because I literally just stopped using it, I was able to sell it back to the same dealer that I bought it from for a 10 grand profit. So when I paid the finance off, I actually, when all was said and done and all my insurance costs, I'd made about 9 grand on this Ferrari. It was as if someone had paid me 9 grand to own a Ferrari for a year, which was a great way to buy a supercar, because you do get bored of these things, or you do want to change. And I went on to buy like my Range Rover Sport brand new, and then I ended up buying a few other cars. But I got to the point where, fast forward into 2018, I was in a far different position financially. And therefore, I wanted a different level of supercar. And I was looking at things like Lamborghini Aventadors and McLarens and Ferrari 458s. But what definitely took my fancy was the Ferrari 488. They were quite new, not many of them about. And I let emotion take over. So I bought a Ferrari 488 for a substantial sum of money. It had a 2 in front of it, if that's anything to go by. And it was 10 months old, but it had all of the extras you could think of. I mean, the racing seats and the red pinstripe down. It was a red Ferrari this time. It was literally the thing of dreams. But the second I got that car delivered, I had a little bit of buyer's remorse, because I knew the price could probably only go one way, which was down. However, I had no expectation to how badly the price would start to fall. It was as if I just bought a house at the height of the market in 2008 and the market then crashed the next day. I remember watching the price every week drop literally by a few £1,000s. And because of the time of year I bought it in November, I couldn't really take it out. So come the start of spring, which was probably the best time to sell a supercar, I realised that I'd fallen out of love with this car, and I definitely didn't have the same connection to it that I had with my 430. So I wanted to sell it, and the prices that I was getting offered wasn't anywhere near making money. I think I was looking at like a 30 grand loss if I was lucky. So I tried selling it privately, and in the end, I did manage to do a deal with the garage that I bought it from, and I did materialise close to a £30,000 loss. But Christ, was I lucky, because had I have not sold it at that point, I would have materialised close to a £60,000 loss based on the value of that car today. And that just goes to show that you should only buy these supercars really if you've seen it at the bottom end of the market, at the bottom end of its price, and then it can only stay the same or start to go up. And I think some of those cars right now are definitely things like the Ferrari 430. I definitely want to buy one of those again, and they are anything from 65 to 75,000 at the moment, so I think they will start to go back up in price. I think the Aventador is going to probably plateau at 150k, so that could be the next car purchase for me. The older shape, I really like the matte black version, low mileage, something that I can buy, and even if I don't use it and it sits in my garage for a year to 2 years, it will either stay at the same value or go up in value slightly. But I am never going to buy a supercar at that value, so new or even brand new, ever again, because they just lose so much money. Going back to a bit more of the everyday cars, yeah, when I bought my Range Rover brand new, I have lost way more than 50% of its value. But I've had that car coming on for 4.5, nearly 5 years. And the car, even though it's worth a hell of a lot less than I paid for it, it's still a lot of car for what it's worth today. And I don't think I'm going to sell that. I'm not looking to sell that for the foreseeable future. And the Tesla that I drive literally has everything a supercar does, apart from maybe the sound. And it's the most tax efficient purchase I think I've ever done in my company other than property. So the Tesla, which I've got a separate video for, and I'll put a link in the comments below, is a really great purchase if you buy it in your company name, but it's also a great car to drive. But it doesn't give you that edge that a supercar like a Ferrari does. So I think the next purchase for me is going to be a Lamborghini, but I'm definitely not going to be buying one new or even a few years old. I'm going to be buying one that is 8 to 10 years old at the bottom of its value, that I think is then going to maintain or go up. Finance is relatively cheap. I don't think I'd get finance on it because the percentage is way more than you would get for any cash sums in the bank. So I think I would literally park the cash in the car without it costing me anything, and probably getting a better return on that money than it does in a bank as it goes up in value. If you are looking to finance a supercar, I think it is a great way to not tie up a huge amount of cash, and you can literally use the cash flow from a HMO to pay for the cost of the finance on a car if you structure it correctly. And if you need the name of a good broker, I do not mind introducing you to the guy that I use, who delivers a great product with great service. But look, that's really it from me. Really light-hearted video while I'm sat in my car about supercars. Hope you found the content rich. Stay safe, and I'll catch you all on the next one.